Evening. How are we all doing? Cat on the keyboard. I seem to have a a companion tonight. This is Acorn, one of the kittens that we had, and yeah, she's a little bit starved for attention. She gets like, I don't know, like hyper affectionate. I don't know what you'd call it. She just yeah, she just won't stop. Hey, how you doing? Yes, hello. See if I can get through the stream without her stamping on everything. Do we have a weirdly low frame rate on the stream, or is that just my end? Yes, we were going to do a watch party kind of towards the end of the stream. Oh, okay, hang on then. What did she sit on? Is that any better? Okay, I think we're good now. I hope. Right then. So I was looking at what to do tonight, and I think what we'll do is we will look at some of the orders UIs we've been making over the past week, get them all polished up, and I've also been making, or at least doing the start of, a couple of new tutorials, because we need a tutorial for the new command interface we've got with the radial menu, and we need to split the helm and the sensor tutorials into two separate tutorials, because there's quite a lot of overlap between them now. And now that they've got their own orders system, it would be good to handle them differently. Oh, weird. So, one of the things I've... yeah, I guess so. One of the things I changed is I've gone ahead and I've changed where the character spawns for the different tutorials. So we've got our command orders one, our helm station, our sensor station, and the existing cold and dark. Right now the sensors one is the one that we've always had. So that's the one that needs splitting. The helm's going to be a new one, and obviously the command orders is a new one. So when starting the test map, we can now change where we start off. So starting with the command one, the tutorial will now start at the bridge doors. At least it should. There we go. So that's where you start on that tutorial. So basically you'll start off at the bridge doors, enter the bridge, and then it will do the introduction dialogue. Whereas if we're doing the helm one, for example, it should start you next to the helm. Yeah, there we go. So each tutorial should now place you kind of where you need to be in order to do the tutorial, which is a small improvement, just a quality of life thing. Right. Now, before we get on to doing the tutorial stuff, I think let's just go and polish off what we've got for these various UI elements on here. Yes, eventually, once we have assigned crew quarters, then yes, you will be starting off in your crew quarters. But only after the second time you've launched the game. So when you launch a new mission from scratch, you'll start from the shuttle bay because you've just boarded the ship. Once you've been assigned a crew quarters, then you'll start from the crew quarters. I think it will have to, AJ, for sure. Not yet, Anasi, no. No, I've not looked at any of those yet. Okay, so these little order widgets that come up, we haven't really kind of sanitized or done any kind of quality pass on those yet. They're just there just to check that it works more than anything else. So let's go ahead and make them a little bit more polished. And we'll do the same for the sensors as well. And then also we need versions of these to go on the command console that have a close button or a cancel button, as well as a priority changing button as well. Yeah, all those bugs will be fixed before we go live. Obviously, I want to get the basics polished first, make sure that visually and presentation-wise it's all kind of final as it needs to be, and then we'll polish it off and make sure all the bugs are fixed. Okay, so one of the first things that I've noticed is that the text here is quite small when you're in game, so let's just bump up the size of that. And generally speaking, we don't quite have that much text on there, so it doesn't need to be a huge amount of text, just a very brief overview. And then we need to make sure that our target coordinates are editable. And that they are displaying correctly. I think we'll keep that there, but we'll maybe make that smaller. Where are we setting that? Are we even setting that is the question. I don't think we are. Right, let's clean all this up a minute. I won't bother listing the parent ID. That's more of a back-end thing. Right, so that can just go in there. And we just need to make sure that we don't have any grouping or anything on there. So that's our main title. Then the description. Right, what else do we have? Actually, we need to append a bit of text before that. Yes, once we implement our new character system, then we'll look at variable gravity across the ship. I mean, it should be the case that once something's been damaged on the part of the ship, you could lose gravity in a certain corridor and yet have gravity everywhere else on the ship. So we want the gravity to be zonal. But we need our new character system built and set up to handle that before we can implement it. That's weird. Not sure why. Oh, bear with me 2 secs. So I'm just kicking the cat out. Okay, so we want to grab that. So that's our galactic coordinates. Then our local coordinates. Right, we'll just convert these to X, Y, and Z. Actually, let's convert these to text first, so that we can remove fractional digits, because we want, this is galactic coordinates, so we just want whole numbers. Okay. And then similarly, for our local coordinates, we also want to adjust the format, the unit of measurement, because right now this is in centimeters. So we want to multiply that by, I think it's 0.00001 to make it kilometers. Hang on, let's just confirm using my favorite website. So 1 kilometer, sorry, no, 1 centimeter is 0.00001. And again, we will just make those into text without any decimals. Not overly tidy, but it'll do for now. And then we'll see what we're doing with the background graphic. I don't want the same, that splash of color that we have there on the sensors UI. I don't want to just reuse the same graphic on everything, so we'll come up with something different for these ones. Oh yeah, and for the ID, we'll do format text on that again, and we'll just do ID like that, just so that we've got a word ID in front of it. And let's just make sure we're not in tutorial mode. So we send the ship there. Okay, so yeah, the local chords need, yeah, they need splitting over 3 separate lines because they're just too long. To be honest, those could probably do with being bigger as well. So these should be... Oh, I see. Is there a space after it? Oh yeah, my bad. I was going to say, that should be right justified. And then we'll split these up into 3 variables. Just because they are so big. We were going to do something for April Fool's Day, but we just haven't had the time, sadly. One thing I do want to do for an April Fool's Day at some point in the future is make the Earth flat. I think that would be quite funny. Oh yeah, we need to split that up. Okay, I think that needs something around it. Just make sure I get the same border distance around there. That needs to be a bit wider. Kind of feels like it needs a solid border across the top as well, as some kind of a title bar, but let's just run with this. Let's see how we go. Actually, if we make that bottom aligned, and we can make that just a bit bigger. Just need to rename these ones. Hey Cole, you're welcome. Good to have you on the stream. Right, that should fix that taking up as much room as it did. Right, let's see what that looks like. You can never quite judge the layout from the editor, because once you actually have it in game, the spacing between things is always slightly different. Yeah, so case in point, that's all off to one side. Okay, we've got some room to play with there though, so we can nudge that over. Yeah, and this background, well, that background ideally needs to be darker. Okay. Just bear with me again, one sec. Back again. I had like cat hair up my nose and just needs to come blow my nose. It would drive me mad. That's what you get when a cat constantly tries to insert itself into your face. Okay, so that'll do shading wise, I think. The numbers for the coordinates are getting a little bit lost in there, I think, but they're only there really for flavor because you can just press the button. But not quite sure why the button is wandering off. I'll align it to this corner instead, and that should hopefully stop that from happening. But yeah, that should do. Could do like a little line joining them up actually, just to kind of emulate the UI design we have here, with like the lines joining relevant things together. Okay, so if we align that to the other corner, maybe bump it up a little bit. And oops, maybe move those over a little bit just to separate them from this side. We could bold those just to make them stand out a bit more. That's better. Yeah, it's all a bit monochrome, but we can sort that out with some customization. Guess we need to set this one as our background color. Thanks, Madman. Yeah, if we set the background one to the background color, that will help blend those in a bit once we start adding color customization to it. We should be able to flag that from the object. That one. Or not. Okay, what we'll do then is we will edit this. And we'll give ourselves the ability to use the other color palettes rather than the primary one. So I think it's by default it's using the foreground color palette, and we want it to use the background one instead. Okay, so if we just make a new Boolean, and make sure we make that instance editable. Then when we drive the color into those, if we stick a select on there, primary is true, we use that one. Otherwise, we use that one. Move them out of the way. Tidy it all up. Okay, and that should enable us to select on a per UI basis whether we want it to use the primary color or the secondary. If we make sure that we default that to primary, then it won't affect any of the other UIs. And on this particular UI, we want it to be the secondary, so we'll untick that. And then just give that a quick look and make sure it worked. Hey Paul, it's going to depend on what the render distance looks like on the planetary terrain. I don't have the teleporter on this map, so I can't demonstrate it, but obviously we can only generate so far into the distance at any given time. I think it is a couple of kilometers, but there is a cutoff, and you'll see a hard line where the terrain is being drawn. So it's a matter of how high up can we make the shuttle before you can't see that terrain cut off, or before that starts to become visible. We can probably mask it a little bit with fogging, so we can have atmospheric fogging in the distance to hide that transition. But yeah, so we can't do like literally stratosphere kind of heights down, because you will see the terrain draw, unless we can LOD that and just have really low resolution in the distance. But the general idea is that basically the atmosphere height is where the transition would take place. So the ship itself can't enter the atmosphere. So you would just park in orbit above the atmosphere. And as soon as the shuttle kind of hits the upper atmosphere, that's when we'd kick the transition in. And then how far down you go and what your altitude is when you are given control back over the shuttle, again, it's going to depend on LODs for drawing objects, like what's the tree draw distance, what's the terrain draw distance, and basically all of the ground clutter that we need to generate. We need to make sure that we don't start so high that you see like a hard line where things are generating, because that will just destroy immersion. So we just need to balance that based on how it performs. Basically, we just need to suck it and see, and then we'll find out. But the goal is absolutely to be able to to be able to explore before you land. So to fly around and actually pick a landing spot. Okay, that definitely didn't pick the right color. It's weird, there shouldn't be any reason why it would ignore that. Oh, unless I've got the colours the wrong way around, maybe. Yeah, well, the surface itself is going to be 1-to-1 scale. So, you know, if you pick a direction and fly in it, then you're going to be flying a long time before you loop around to the other side. Not that one, that one. Ah, there we go. Okay, so foreground. Oh, I see what I did. Hang on though, if background is the blue. Okay, and then we have that. So doesn't help that I've called it foreground and background on the UIs and primary and secondary on here. So that does confuse matters somewhat. And that's why you should keep naming conventions consistent. But it works, that's the main thing. I just need to sort out our naming convention on the back end so I don't get myself confused. Right, yeah, let's just give that one more quick test just to make sure that everything's drawing as we want it to. Hey Melissa, that's great, thank you. I hope that's not an omen, Delta. Let's set up a patrol route. Let's add a few targets just so we can see it looks like, with a bunch of them on there. Okay, and then we'll do the colors. I knew I'd end up getting that the wrong way around. 50-50 chance of getting it right, and I picked the wrong one. Right, last test. Go there. Then go there. Then go there. Now get out my chair so I can do it. Okay, so they're all on there. There we go. Right, that's better. Of course. So, see, this is an interesting one. Because the color is updated when the customization is saved or set. Obviously, when it scrolls a new widget onto the screen, it hasn't received that update, and that's just now a brand new defaulted widget. So we need to change the behavior on there so that it queries the customization directly when it actually creates that little child widget, so that it's consistently picking up the customization values. I'm pretty sure it's doing that on the sensors too. But yeah, so that gives us our data. Now I don't think we need anything else on here to aid the helm. Yeah, so you just saw it then redraw, because what it did, we've arrived at the destination, so it's gone ahead and it's removed one of those orders from the list, and it's now expecting me to go there. So if we set our nav target and engage the FTL, then that will disappear. But because it's redrawn them, obviously again it hasn't picked up the customization. So that's just one little tweak that we need to make. Which is an interesting one. I suppose on our child objects, I guess it's going to be when they are specifically initialized. So yeah, because we're waiting for our customization to be called, but I think it would probably benefit us to go ahead and call that anyway. So if we get player state cast to Starship player state, get ship customization, yeah, then I guess we just need to to do what we're doing here, but just immediately. Although, are we saving that elsewhere? Because obviously that's our local player state, and we need to get... Let me just check player controller a minute, see if it's on there. I changed how we were storing the customization to make it more consistent, and because of that, I've forgotten where I put it. Yeah, that was it. Current ship customization. Great, which we are setting from player state, I assume. So that's our save game. Setting that there. Broadcasting it out there. Okay, so I think we could do with storing this value on game state as well, because right now we are loading the ship customization if we are the host. So we're just going through seeing if we've got a save game already. If we do, we load the customization through it. And then we broadcast that out so that joining players obviously get a copy of the customization. But it's only doing that if it's the host. So let's just see whether or not client player states have a copy of this. I always get a bit muddy on a player state relationship between the host and clients, because player state exists on the client and the server. So which one are we loading from? So we might need to make sure that we just save this on game state as a replicated variable so that clients can pull from that data whenever they need to know what the ship customization actually is. Although, that having been said, these are server-side systems that we're looking at. Yeah, let's just try it a minute. So we'll get that, and I'll duplicate that. Right, let's just see whether that actually updates when we scroll. That was my plan first, yes. I figured that we'll do a bit of a watch party. I'm not sure if I'll have anything intelligent to add to the situation, but we can watch it together. I don't know a huge amount about the Artemis program, only that it's a huge waste of money. So, does it update on scroll? Kinda. Right, so if we change these values to something completely different, and then scroll. Okay. Let's just see what happens when we actually arrive at the target, because this thing will get refreshed. So if it comes back green, then it's working. If it comes back blue, then it didn't. Yeah, I've not been following Artemis 2. I tend to follow what's going on with SpaceX, but over the past few months I've been so busy with this, I haven't been keeping up with everything. Like, I didn't even watch all the latest static fires and things at Boca Chica, which I would normally do, but just too busy. But we'll watch it and yeah, see what happens. Yeah, my issue, to be honest, it's not Artemis itself I've got a problem with, it's SLS. So SLS is just a massive waste of time and money. Yeah, spending so much time on cost plus contracts, building something which is decades old technology that's not innovating in any way. In fact, it's even using spare parts from the shuttle era. You know, you should be ploughing that money into actual innovation. And you know, obviously I'm not American, I'm not an American taxpayer, but it is just crazy to be spending so much time and resources on a non-reusable system that is just using old tech. It just seems like a complete no-brainer. Why would you do that? It's weird. And even if you don't want to go with a commercial provider like SpaceX, then do what SpaceX are doing, because reusability is clearly the future of human spaceflight. I think the SLS program is the result of bureaucracy and the big old rocket manufacturers clutching to old contracts. Yeah, for sure. Although, as far as I'm aware, Metholox engines produce water vapor as their exhaust, because you're literally combining methane with oxygen, which creates water. So we'll give this one the same treatment as we did the other one. Oh, for sure, serious. Yeah, I'm glad that we are up there doing something. But I think now NASA has the right administrator in place. Hopefully NASA will do what they said they were going to do, which was to focus on the science, not on the launch vehicles. And I think that's a much better way forward for NASA. Let the private industry build the vehicles and then have NASA focus on the science, focus on making new innovative telescopes and things, and then just use private contractors for lofting those things up into space, rather than wasting NASA's money on building rockets when you've got private enterprise doing a perfectly good job of that already. What I think I'll do with this is I will basically just copy what we did for this one. So we grab those. Just grab all of it actually. Let's delete that. I guess that's the problem, because you have traditional launch providers like Boeing basically milking their cash cow. And it's the whole cost plus contracts thing. It's ridiculous. You know, the longer you take, the more money you make. So why would you do anything quickly? It's crazy. But that's why the whole thing needed changing. Are you still having an issue with it not going between planets, Sirius? Because that should be working now, at least in the latest build. Oh, I ran out of tea. That's no good. No, I've seen various examples of EM drives, and there's always something that kind of debunks the theory. Like they'll work out whether it's like a passing truck wobbling the sensors or something. It's never actually providing the thrust they say it is. Oh yeah, that doesn't raise an order yet. I forgot that. Yeah, so some of the things on the sensors guy are scripted events and not orders that are specifically being raised. So things like going between the sensor modes, that doesn't need to be a scripted event, but when it comes to things like, I guess, conducting a survey.
Long-range survey complete.
Yeah, that needs to be something that's raised as an order. Okay. So we cheat our way over. We should see that appear on there. Button's not there, so we need to fix that. That also needs... Oh no, that is the right text for this. Yeah. Okay, and yeah, customization's working, so that's good. Okay, so that needs hooking up as well. Oh, I see. Yeah, so I remember what I did now. Yeah, so if the button's not needed, then we're setting it to collapsed. That's fine. That's why it wasn't there. Let's just grab what we did for this one. Again, just for the sake of expediency. Okay, so in order for us to be able to press the button to target something on the sensors themselves, we need to convert this into something that's on the listing. So we need to do a search of the listing and then match the coordinates against this, which is a non-trivial task. So it's the best thing to do is probably make a little helper function for that over here somewhere. Okay. I need a couple of these because whether or not it's long range or medium range makes a difference. In fact, we're going to target system object. I'll do that on target sector location, because those are the specific things that we can select. And then we'll have target details, which is our helm target struct. Same on this one. Target details. So that gives us our search criteria, and specifically for that one we only need the galactic coordinates, and for this one we should only need the local coordinates, although we'll I guess we'll use the galactic coordinates just to verify we're in the right system. On that note, Firstus, right now when you click on the sensors person, you have the sensors modes submenu. Do you think it would be worth having GPS long medium range as top level buttons so you don't have to go into a folder first or a category first? So what we do here is going to depend on what current sensor mode we're using. If we're on the galactic position mode, we'll basically do nothing because it's irrelevant. I guess if we're on sector location, it's the long range that we're specifically interested in, which means we need a reference to that on the long range one. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Sure, I'll have a look at it though, because I also find it a little bit clunky. This is a very complicated UI with a lot of nested elements, so it's always a bit of a challenge to find the one you want. So it's list view long range is the one we're after. We just do get items, get list items. Yeah, there we go. Because what we want to do is we want to go through all of these list items, and then for each one we need to get the data for them, and if it's a matching one, then we have to basically press it remotely. So we need to see what data we are passing along, which is basically all of this. So it's sector location that we would need from that. Hang on, just need to work out what class we're dealing with. Sensors, long range sector locations. Okay. That one. Right, so here's our data, and there's our coordinates that we're comparing against. So basically, if that is exactly equal to that, then we found our match. And we can go ahead and cancel the loop. But at the same time, we also need to forcibly select it. So can we do that from here? You can get selected item from there. So we need to kind of set that as the selected item. Yeah, because where we can do get is selected, and we have the event that fires when it's selected. Sorry, not that one. That one. So we want to artificially set this as the selected object. So we need to kind of set selected. And I'm not sure that we can. But what we can do is we can set this instead, because we are storing our selected sector locations separately. So that's what this particular widget index represents, and that's the one that we are tracking that is selected, so that when we refresh the menu, if these two are the same, then we can highlight this as a selected object. So we could do it that way, because we've already listed it and cast to it on here. So if they match, we can actually set selected sector location, and then set that so that they match. I guess in our well, I suppose even easier than that, what we can do is rather than setting that directly, we can force a button press, because when we do this, we're running select sector location on there. We can probably get the index as well. Let's give that a try. So if we select sector location, and then we give it a reference to that one, and I guess it's the same index. Get index. Can we get the item index? No, I'll just give it that index. What are we setting that from? I think for safety we'll just get the index from that and set it with that one. Okay. So having done that, basically we're doing the same thing that we would have done had we pressed on that button, because it just basically fires that, which is the same thing, which should then refresh the UI. Oh, and then we need to, of course, break the loop, because we don't want it to carry on searching if we've already found a match. So that handles sector locations. Now for the other modes, be them short range or medium range, we're going to have to do this slightly differently, because we're looking at a different list view for each one. But that aside, we should be able to do the same. We're just targeting something different at the other end. So we just need to make sure that we now run this from here. And then we give it our target. Oh, actually, no, saying that, there is one check we need to do here, and that's whether or not it's a star system. So if it is, we're targeting a sector location. If it's not, then we are targeting a system object. So there's some data reasons why that was the case, because they are stored separately. So that just fires the appropriate event, which means we should now be able to select something on the holo display and then have the button on the orders target the same object. So if we select Alpha Centauri, Where is it? There. That's now our command target. Of course, yeah. So we don't have any orders raised for doing anything with that. Hang on. Let's just look at what our criteria was. Oh yeah, so selecting targets. So okay, so we're raising an order to perform a long-range survey. We need to make sure that that actually is happening. So we have that targeted. So we should be able to go. Yeah, we need to clean this up a bit because this is a little bit confusing. Because we've got things on here which need not be on here until they're actually needed. So like with the orders one, where we don't have things appearing unless they are relevant and usable. We need to do the same thing here on the sensors because we've got stuff on here which isn't relevant. So like back to overview is only relevant if you are looking at the long range detail. Yeah, so the range ones can probably stay. Okay, so that one worked. So what we did there is we've got Alpha Centauri targeted, and we want to focus the sensors on that object with the align to target. So if we just do focus on command target, then the sensor's NPC goes ahead and does that. If we kick them out of the chair and go back to that and then do that again. In fact, let's do a different one. Barnard star. So of course we can't raise that as an order because there's no one currently sat in the chair. So another thing we need to do is make sure that if a player is sat in the chair, then those same orders need to be raisable. So obviously, with NPCs there, you've got all these different options, and when the NPC is not there, you don't. So if a player is in the chair, then we need to make sure you can raise the same thing. So again, going back to the whole multi-language bridge arrangement, if you're playing with someone who's not a natural speaker of your language, you can still issue orders to them because you'll be doing it in, say, English, and what they see on their end is in, say, French. So what it says on here will be written in French for them. So you're able to issue commands to them, and they can respond to those commands in their language. But right now, this only comes up if there's an NPC in the chair. So we need to make sure that we change that so that it works in multiplayer properly. Obviously, you can just tell the person, over voice chat, I want you to do this. But in circumstances where you might not be on voice chat with them, and typing in the text box is cumbersome, it's much easier just to say, right, do this. Okay. So what have we got again? So I think it would probably be useful at this point to fix this so that it makes more sense. I'm thinking maybe break out the sensor modes so that the top level menu is perhaps just these 4 options instead of all this other stuff. So when you click on them, you immediately have access to all the different modes, and then have, like on long range, like focus on command target, should be under the long range option. And then obviously the range buttons, which are on all of them. And then conducting a survey and back to overview. Neither of those should be present unless you are already focused on that target. So those two are dependent on this one, so they should be hidden until that's done, just to keep it user friendly, basically. So let's just go ahead and fix that. It's less than that. It's there's usually about 200 people that enter the competition each month, so you're looking at about a 1 in 200 chance. Although less than that as well, because we always give away a couple of keys, usually at least 3. Yeah, same illusion. I'm looking forward to seeing to be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing people actually able to play the game properly, able to sit in the command chair and actually issue orders to people, and have those orders come up on their screens and have them able to action those orders. We're getting to a proper kind of bridge sim environment at that point, which is nice. Right, so here's where we're generating all the different options. Sensors 1 is the one that, yes, I remember from the last stream actually. I was looking at this and dreading the complication that needs to follow. Because where we've done this on the helm, where we've broken out all of these yes, no, yes, no's, we need to do the same action on the sensors in a way that hopefully makes sense. So I guess the first thing we need to do would be to switch on that. And that gives us our four modes. And then for each one of those, we need to build up our array. So we've got our level zeros there. Right, so we don't need that one because we've got these ones. Yeah, then rather than dual using some of these, we'll just duplicate them and just reuse them on the other modes. Although that said, I don't think that is necessarily relevant. Ah, Lamus, thank you. Or is that Iamus? Is that an lowercase l or a capital I? Can't quite tell. But thank you, either way. Very much appreciated. I too am excited for this project. Can't wait for it to be finished. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking all of the menu options that we were doing essentially left to right, and now I'm populating them right to left instead. Because we need to go through and do a bunch of branches, which we can only do when we've got exec pins. So first thing we need to do is make sure we've got our 4 main modes, which is them. And right now we're doing those as level 1 because we had them 1 level deep on the menu. So instead we need to make level 0 versions of these four menu options. So it's going to be a submenu. The channel is going to be bridge commands, sensors, action ID. We want it to remain open. Don't need to bother refreshing. We do want to redraw. Okay, and then we're going to make our sub items, but rather than doing make array, we need to do a for each, which means we need our temporary versions of each level. Okay, and then for those sub-items there, we're going to have to make a temporary level 1 menu, which is radial level 1. Yeah, so we add whatever we're adding to level 1. And then when we're done, we add that to there. And then then the last thing we do is we output the level 0. So for galactic position, all we're going to need is zooming in and out pretty much. Okay, and then we need to make those as level 1s, so make struct radial menu level 1, copy those over, so we want increase range, decrease range, both those are actions. We don't want the menu to remain open, don't need to refresh it. Okay. Okay, so what we're actually doing here is we're adding the level 1 menu items to build up our level 1 temporary array, and then we use that for the sub items for our level 0 item, where we add to our level 0 array, and then when we've done that to all 4 sensor modes, we can then output the whole lot. So that's going to be several nested arrays of structs that go out as our whole entire menu. But the reason we need to do it this way is so that we can run branches on whether or not to include these items within the array. So rather than using this include boolean, that can come out now, we don't need that. We'll stick the branch here instead. So we physically don't add the item to the array. And the reason for that is because on the radial menu itself, it relies on the length of the array to work out how many segments there should be. So if you've got things in there which have include unticked, even though it won't draw them, it's still counting them as part of the array. So it just messes up the radial menu. So by just not adding it in the first place via a branch, it kind of solves that problem. It's perhaps a little bit of a bodge, but it does the trick. Right, so that's the GPS one done. So I think what we'll do, if we collapse that just to neaten it all up, because I do like me a nice tidy blueprint. So just to make sure everything's on there, so we go blah 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 blah. Add that, add it to there, add it to there. Don't need any outputs. Right, and what I'll do is I'll duplicate this for long range. Although long range is going to have a lot more going on with it. Let's grab a copy of that a minute, just so that we can make sure it is worded and set up exactly how it should be. Right, so this one's now a sub-menu, not an action. We're remaining open. We're redrawing the menu. Yeah, I guess we're refreshing it as well, aren't we? I'll do that on the other one. And we're probably going to need a level 2 temporary array on this one. Absolutely Danger Mouse, very cool. Of course, we need dismiss NPC as well. And we need to add that first. Yeah, so as part of the logic, so if there's an NPC present, we dismiss the NPC. Let's make sure that's being catered for here as well. Okay, so sensor modes is no longer category in its own right. The 4 sensor modes are now top level buttons, so we don't need those. Increase range and decrease range are going to be on each one separately, naturally. Right, those ones need to be on long range. So we need to add those. So I've got the medium range survey. We go on the medium one. Yeah, and a bunch of short range ones there. Thank you, Ravenclaw. Much appreciated. Yeah, that's why it's taken so long. Perhaps a little bit too big. And yeah, I do agree with you, Danger Mouse. It's obviously I had no idea that it was the first black person, woman, or Canadian to go around the moon. But it's a shame in a way that that has to be like pointed out in this day and age. You know, that should be something that had happened already and should be normal. So am I adding these separately, or do we just add them to the list? You've just described an average day for Claire, Sirius. Like, I've lost count of the amount of times I've tried to get into an email account or log into one of our tools or systems, and the password is not where I left it, because at some point Claire's forgotten the password and reset it. I just expect it now. It's true, she does. So I'm just trying to think of this menu like in 3 dimensions. Okay, so level 0. So dismiss NPC obviously is the first thing on the list. And we're only generating that because we've done our logic check here. So if we can spawn an NPC, and there is an NPC in the chair, then we definitely want to add removing the NPC as the first option. Yeah, then we leave the menu open so that we can immediately then just click sit down, because generally speaking, the only reason you'd want to remove the NPC is if you were about to sit. So we'll leave the menu open so that you can press the sit down button. So that's always going to be first. And then we want to draw the 4 menus. So I might as well just add these while we're doing it. Oh, I forgot to set myself to do not disturb. Ignore the ping, that was me. Who was it though? Who can we blame? It was 1108, one of our mods. We are now 1 hour from the launch. I suppose I should grab a stream. What I'll do is I'll pop NASA's stream over on the t'other side so that I can keep an eye on it. I'll just leave that muted for now. Four years, not 5. Hang on, has it been 5? So we were experimenting with bits and pieces in 2020. And then we actually started the project formally in January 2021. Before that, we were just messing about and experimenting with things. And yeah, we've had a few false starts and a few huge major refactors of the ship. Okay, right, so we don't need that, don't need them, don't need those. Right, so that should be the full menu drawing bit that we need. So we just need to make sure now that we set the right options on here. So that's medium range, so sensors, medium. And short. Okay. And then the zooming in and zooming out. Keep those visible, and they should be the same on each one anyway, so we shouldn't need to change these at all. Okay, so all we should have is dismiss the NPC and then the 4 sensor modes. So let's just save all that and give it a quick try. Okay, so that's much cleaner. So we've just got our 4 sensor modes and the ability to dismiss the NPC. I think if we just keep it at that makes this much more approachable, so we don't have lots of sub items on there. So we simply select whichever mode we're interested in. So it's already on galactic position, and then obviously we've got the increase and decrease range, which is the same for all of them. In fact, let's just make sure that is indeed there for all of them. So long range. Wait a minute. Oh, I know why. It's because we need to set the type to both, because if it's a sub-menu, it only opens the sub-menu. If it's an action, it only performs an action. If you select both, it both performs the action and opens the sub-menu, which is what we want when we're changing modes, so that it actually changes to that mode and then opens up the sub-menu with all the options that you can do, which would be this lot. Okay, so we might not actually need a level 2 on this, because we can turn these just on and off as we need them. So that said, just need to have a think about what order we're going to do things in. Probably leave zoom and zoom out as the last options. Meaning the command target one would be the first one. And I'm going to just rename that to align to command target, just so that because it's more indicative of what's actually happening. I like that idea as well, actually, Kaji. We'll have to speak to the person that runs the YouTube channel and see whether or not they'll be happy for us to do that. I mean, they do basically do royalty-free lo-fi, so yeah, if they're happy for us to use the tracks in the game, that would be quite cool. And we'll just stick a credit to them in the game's credits. Yes, there's a comms station on the bridge where you'll be able to hail alien species and perform diplomacy. In fact, the diplomacy side of things will be quite an important part of the game once we get to the whole alien interaction thing, because that's what's going to make the difference between a successful friendly encounter and them turning around and shooting at you. so basically we don't want to add this one as an option unless we actually have an established command target, because otherwise it's pointless and serves no purpose. So if has target is true, then we have the option to align to the command target. Otherwise, it just won't add this to the menu at all. Now, similarly, the ability to conduct a survey only needs to be listed if we're on the align to target mode. We're looking at the detail for a system, so we need to get our sensors data, and then we need to work out whether we're on the right page. I suppose you also need to check. Well, we know we're definitely on long range mode, because otherwise it wouldn't give us access to the long range options, so we don't need to check that. Yeah, so we'll just check to see whether that is on the system locations mode, and if it is, then both of these need to be displayed. So we'll keep that one as the top level one, and then we'll add the other two underneath. We'll do the back button first, and then the ability to conduct a survey. Oops, no, we didn't want that one there. Oh, of course, the level 1 version of it, don't we? So that's our back button. I'll get rid of that in a minute. Okay, and then we need conduct survey. And we won't leave the menu open with this one. So for navigation around the menu, we'll leave the menu open. Or if it's something that brings up further options, we'll leave the menu open. If it's something like a survey, once you've pressed the button, generally you're waiting at that point, so we'll just automatically close the menu for that. And then that's basically just checking, making sure that we are on the right page. Yeah, the long range one's awkward because you've got that sub page where you align to the target. Just makes things a little bit more more complicated. Okay, so to begin with, let's just make sure that that's working. So we can go to the different mode. I think we need to clear that array because it's just adding more and more items to the array, which is kind of hilarious. Okay, so galactic position, all you can really do is zoom in and out. And then on long range, you've got your zoom in and out twice. Okay, so let's just make sure we go ahead and clear that. Yeah, so for each one of these, we just want to make sure that we clear the level 1 data before we redraw the menu. Because once we've used it to draw, to populate that menu item, we don't need it again for this. But if we don't clear it between each one, then it's just going to be appending more and more items to it. Yeah, over the course of this year, I'm going to be working on everything across the board, as opposed to focusing on one system specifically, because we want to get the groundworks in for everything before we start polishing and finalizing. Okay, so galactic position, long range, right? I've only got the 2 on there now. Okay, short range, just the 2. Medium range, just the 2. Okay, that's working. Yeah, so actually let's just make sure that works. Yep. Make sure that works. Yep. So if we now select press the right button. If we now select something as our command target, and we speak to the NPC again, so on the long range, we now have a new option for align to command target, which we didn't have before because we had nothing selected. So that's now working contextually. And when we click this, we should now have additional options appear as well. So now we've got... actually, that's... shouldn't be going back to the middle. Yeah, because the issue we have is when you click the long range button, obviously it actually presses the long range button on the UI. I'm wondering whether or not we make it skip that if we are already on that sensor mode, so it doesn't repress the button. Because what that does is that clears this mode, so it is successfully aligning to the target, but when we click the button it's undoing it again, which means we never get to see the additional menu options that we need. So let's just have a look at what it's doing. I can't remember the difference between refresh and redraw, because I'm using both of those as an option here. Let's just have a look at the actual menu itself and just refresh my brain as to why I called it that in the first place. Thank you all today. Yeah, I've got it open on another tab, so I will. I'll be keeping an eye on it. Oh, of course, we're not doing it on the HUD, are we? No, 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 we're doing it separately. Okay, so if refresh is true, okay, then we're rebuilding it from there. So what we want to do is maybe just refresh it in place. See, the awkward thing with this is obviously we don't know which one of these we're currently on, unless no, because that's the selected index on that one. So we would need to maybe store a secondary selected index. So obviously we're grabbing a selected index for level 0, so we know which one we've clicked on. Why am I using refresh? This strikes me as being one of those early hours of the morning things when I've just added something that makes no sense whatsoever. So I've added that if we're refreshing the menu, but if we're going to redraw it anyway, like what's the point of doing that? I'll pick back through this and work out why I did that, but I think that and that are actually redundant, because we only really care about redrawing it. But that is kind of besides the point, because when we select one of the items, in fact no, when we select something on level 0, we are grabbing the index of the thing we selected, and that tells us which item we're getting from our data array. Essentially, which of the top level items do we have selected. We could do with storing that so that when we click something on level 1, if we're keeping it open and we're refreshing the data, so we have to go to the source actor to work out what the valid options are, then we need to rebuild the level 1 menu, not go back to the level 0 menu. But we can't build the level 1 menu unless we have that data from here, and we need to know which element on this array are we getting via the index. But we've already got a new index from the level 1, so the index that we use for level 0 kind of needs to be stored. So yeah, so I think what we'll do is when we actually click it, yeah, I guess it doesn't matter what we're doing with it, we'll just save it anyway. So every time we click on level 0, we will, if I do over here, grab a reference to our index. And we'll just do selected level 0 index, which to be honest we can just use like so. So by doing that, we've now stored specifically which one we were working with. So when it comes to here, we can grab a reference to that, and rather than building our level 0 menu, we can rebuild our level 1 menu with our level 1 data, which we need to grab from here somewhere. Hang on, what are we using? That, yeah, so if we reset our level 1 data, and then that will refresh the level 1 menu, meaning it should stay on screen and just update the options that we have available to us. I'll do all of this from the menu. So our long range mode, select something on the long range sensors, and now we can align to our command target. Okay, so that sort of worked in that we now have some of the stuff we need. So it skipped adding the back button, which is expected because we inject that earlier on. Okay, so upon the second click, that did indeed give us what we were looking for. So it's increased the amount of options we've got. So we can now go back to the long range overview. We can align to that twice to give us this. I wonder why we're having to click on it twice. That's a little bit weird. But now we should be able to conduct our survey. So yeah, so that's working.
Long range survey complete.
Okay. So I guess what we want now then is when we go to long range, is for it to not reset everything. So align to command target. Right, then that skips adding the back button. Alright. Wondering whether we should add that sooner. Yeah, so if we add that on here. So we'll insert our back button immediately before we count the number of segments we need. And if we stick this in the macro, then we don't need it here, which means we don't need to add it here either. That just simplifies the graph a little bit. That's made that a little bit easier on the eye. Okay, so if refresh menu is true, then we fade the menu out. We grab our stored actor, which is the chair. We re-request the level 0 data from that. And I'm wondering whether or not we're requesting it too soon, which is why it's not immediately updating. We've already stored that, so we're getting the right menu option. So that creates our level 1 menu, and then we actually apply that to the ring, and then we fade it back in again. Okay. So I think something we'll do is, whilst we are doing the animation, I think if we just make a boolean for that. So just set it for true while we do the animation, and then set it to false when we're done. And then what we'll do is we will make sure that we don't process any mouse clicks whilst it's animating, and that will stop it from selecting the wrong stuff if we quickly move the mouse while we're clicking. So So event submit. We just need to add another branch in there. So if animating is false, then we won't process any of the submitted stuff. That should fix our nastiness. I'll just try and break it real quick. So what was happening before is if you were to click orders and then quickly move the mouse down here, then you would get status report and lighting having clicked orders. So orders, back, orders, yeah, that's better. So it should only come up with the thing that you've clicked on, even if you're moving the mouse really quickly. Much betterer. Yeah, great. Let's fix that problem. Okay, and then on here, so long range, blah, blah, blah. Actually, let's just select something. Long range, so align to command target. Okay, interestingly, it didn't add the back button. Okay, why didn't that add a back button? It says 24 minutes on my screen. Have they added some time to the clock? Hang on, did I add the back button on the wrong one? Oh, I did. I added it to the level 2 and I wanted it on the level 1. Yeah, so same as before, we need to insert the back button before we do a count of the array to determine the number of segments. Having done that, we no longer need that there. Just simplifies the graph a little bit. Right, that should solve the back button problem. As for the menu refreshing or not refreshing, okay, so the action is done there. Okay, and if remain open is true and refresh are true, then we fade the ring out, and once the ring's faded out, we then check to refresh our data. So that delay, whilst we wait for the that delay rather, whilst we wait for the animation to complete, should be long enough for that action to have taken place. But just to check, let's add a 1 second delay, just to see whether or not this is a timing issue. I hate it when it's a timing issue because obviously every computer is going to be different in terms of how long it takes. Okay, so long range, pick a target, long range, align. Yeah, it is a timing issue. So we have inserted the back button. So I guess we don't need align to command target as a button if we're already aligned. So back to overview kind of needs to replace that. So we click align, that shouldn't be there. That's replaced by that, and that gives us the option to conduct our survey and to do our zoomies. And of course go back. Right, so the question is, how long a delay do we need? I'm making a tutorial for using the radial menu and setting command targets. NASA says 19 minutes, by the way, just looking at it. I'll run through it really quickly, just so you can see how it's supposed to work. So the idea, conceptually, on the bridge, is the radial menu exists as your interface with the ship and crew. So this is you either speaking or performing a physical action. That's what this is basically for. If you're looking at nothing and you press F to bring the radial menu up, then the things that it gives you to do are all voice things. So you are making an order, you're speaking to the computer, you're basically speaking to the bridge. That's what that's for. If you click on an individual bridge station, say the helm or the sensors, because those are the only two that are implemented right now, this is you speaking to that person. So you're speaking to them directly. So you're issuing them with an order. So either that's dismiss the NPC or do something. So in this instance, I want them to bring up the long range sensors. So I just click the long range button, and now they've brought up the long range sensors for me. Now at the moment, the only options we have are to zoom in and out, because we don't actually have a target set. So conceptually, the idea is, if you click on something on the long range sensors, or any sensor mode, you set a command target. So that is the target that you've selected as the captain or as the XO. Now the command target, oh hang on, YouTube's just crashed, let me reload that. That's now held and stored in the game so that you can go to the helm and you'll see that a new option has now appeared, navigate to command target. So if you click that, which I will in fact, the helm person has just targeted what we had set as the command target as its nav target and is now navigating the ship to that location. If I was to select another command target and also tell them to go there, right now they will do nothing because they're already going to the other one. Now what I could do at this point is cancel current orders, in which case they will abandon going to that one and now they're going to that one instead. If we select that one again and say navigate to command target, and say that one as well. Oh, that one, navigate to command target. Now what we've just done is we've set up a series of targets to fly the ship to. So they will now fly to each one of those in turn. So basically we've just queued up like a patrol route or something. If we cancel current orders, that will just cancel the one that we're currently working on, so they'll just go to the next one in the list. Now the same thing's also true for the sensors. So I need to make it persistent. When the holo display updates, it does actually get rid of the target, but it is still there in the background. So even if it disappears, it still exists. So we can now go to the sensors and say the long range, and we can now tell them to align to the command target, which will have now aligned the long range sensors to that target. And now obviously we can perform other actions such as scanning, doing a survey and all the rest of the stuff that you can do. So the idea is that setting that command target is what lets those bridge stations know what it is you're talking about. So if you wanted to fly to, say, that planet specifically, you can now tell the helm to fly there. So if we cancel their current orders and whatever the other one was, there we go. Now they're flying there. So they will now fly to that planet specifically because that's what you set as your command target and that's what you tell them to do. So I've set it up in such a way that when you issue the command, whatever you had as the target is then saved as part of that command. So you can now go and target something else, and you could speak to the sensors about this target without affecting what the helm's doing, because they're working off of what you said at the time when you issued the order. And that general way of doing things is going to be the same across the board for all the different bridge stations. So say we're in a tactical situation and you've got an alien ship out there which is firing at you. If you were to go to the tactical console, now right now there are no options because we don't have a tactical console yet. You will see a 3D representation of the enemy ship with things like energy signatures available as things you can target. So if we pretend this was an alien ship, then like that could be the engines, that could be their shield generator, that could be their sensors. So you could target one of the elements on the alien vessel, and then when you speak to the tactical person, you could say, right, blow this thing up, please. And they will then actively shoot at wherever your command target was. So from a tactical situation, you can actually select individual subcomponents on an alien vessel, and then they know what it is you're talking about. So I wanted to keep it as generic as possible so that command target is a reusable thing that you can just keep referencing on all the different bridge stations. Yes. On the new build, you will actually have the ability to see the different orders on here. So right now you can see that that's what the helm's doing, and we'll make a different version of this UI element where it says cancel instead of the button that the helm gets, and also the ability to prioritize as well. So if we say go there and then go there, you can see on here we've now got multiple orders that are set up for the helm, and you'll be able to move those around. So you won't be able to drag and drop, but we'll have like plus and minus buttons so that you can change the order of what you want to do it in, or we'll just have a cancel button on there. So if you wanted to cancel this one specifically without affecting the one they're currently working on, then you can just drop this one out of the queue. But we haven't added that yet. That's one of the next things to do on our to-do list. But it means that as the captain or the XO, you can see what's actively happening on each bridge station. And we'll have that obviously for all the different bridge stations. And we'll rejig this UI to make sure they all fit. Yes, so if we cancel that and that, so there's no more helm orders. If we go to the long range sensors, okay, and we pick something nearby, say that system right there because it's close to us. So if we just press F whilst not looking at anything, go to orders, and then go to ship-wide orders and explore target system. And what it's going to do now is it's going to navigate to that star system. And if we look over here at ship-wide orders, we've got an order pending for explore system. And then what it'll do is it will raise helm orders and sensors orders back and forth until it's done everything needed to fully explore this star system. So this orders here, the ship-wide orders, that won't disappear until every single planet has been fully explored. And you can see here now it's created a sensors orders as well. So so yeah, as we autonomously explore the star system, you'll find that these two are disappearing and appearing as it's closing and raising different orders. But again, this is very much a temporary UI and needs like fleshing out properly. But yeah, we should see there. So you can see the sensors did their long range survey, so their bit's done. And then when we arrive at the planet that the sensors selected, you'll see that a new sensors order will appear to conduct the short range scan. So that should appear, and it should switch to short range mode automatically. Sorry, they're on a hold at the moment. There we go. So you can see that the helm orders were completed, so they disappeared. New sensors orders was raised, and it switched to the short range mode. And then you'll find that it will select a new target, and new helm orders will appear, and then we'll go to the next one. Yeah, you'll see that on the next patch. Yeah, so right now Artemis is 10 minutes and holding. I'm not sure whether that's a planned hold or a incident. Yeah, I think once these systems start connecting to one another, you'll find that the game should start coming together quite quickly, because all of a sudden you've got integrated bridge systems which are then communicating with one another, and all of a sudden it's a game and not just an experience. So there's more to it now than just the raw simulation. There's actually stuff going on, and yeah, obviously all the different roles aboard the ship, all the different departments, they all need to factor into this as well. And the system we've put together over the past month for handling those orders and managing those orders will work ship-wide. So it's not just on the bridge, it will also work in engineering, it will also work for the chef. So we're quite far ahead in terms of those things. Right now you're only seeing it working on the bridge, but it will work everywhere. Yeah, to be honest, I'm looking forward to getting back to engineering and really fleshing that out and making it a lot more techy down there. So the cold start's going to be even more rewarding. me just see what's going on with NASA a minute. Yeah, they're still holding at 10 minutes right now. They're checking for launch constraints. And looks like we're waiting for the launch director to clear the launch. Hang on, let's turn that up a bit.
This is the NTD conducting the Artemis 2 launch readiness check. Verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC.
TC is go.
STC.
STC is go.
GTC. C's go. MC.
Let me know if that's too loud.
Safety console.
Safety console is go.
LPE. LPE's go. RTD. RTD's go. Houston flight. Houston flight is go. Rock. Rock is go. And CDR. Crew is go. Copy that. Thank you, Reed. And launch director NTD. Our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
All right, NTD, I copy all. At this time, I'll perform my poll.
No, don't do that.
This is the launch director performing the final poll for launch. Verify no constraints and go for launch. EGS, Program Chief Engineer.
Artemis Chief Engineers are go.
Copy, thank you. EGS, Chief Safety Officer.
The Artemis CSOs are go.
Copy, thank you. Range weather.
Launch weather is go.
Thank you, LWO. And Artemis MMT Chair.
MMT's go.
Thank you, John. And Integrity Launch Director.
Gotta love a go no go poll.
Thank you, Charlie. This is Victor. We are going for our families. MF1.
This is Christina. We are going for our teammates.
MF2. This is Jeremy. We are going for all humanity. All right, Charlie, your Artemis 2 crew is go for launch. Full send.
I copy that. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy. On this historic mission, you take with you the heart of this Artemis team, the daring spirit of the American people and our partners across the globe, and the hopes and dreams of a new generation. Good luck. Godspeed, Artemis 2. Let's go.
Very cool.
And NTD Launch Director.
Go ahead, launch director.
Yes, sir. You have a go to proceed with countdown.
Copy that. I'll put it in work. CDR NTD.
Go.
Gear risers and initiate short purge per your EPROC 10.1.1, steps 8 and 9.
10.1.1, 8, 9 going to work.
Copy. CBSC NTD. Start and verify recordings of our Orion cameras. Copy.
Okay, well there you heard it.
RSR NTD.
We're getting ready to start terminal count.
AR location enable at this time, please.
Okay, well I'll
10 minutes.
I'll come back to that in 5 minutes when it's 5 minutes from launch.
Enable complete. We're going to start that clock.
Thank you.
Exciting stuff. I'd love to be there in person. And I think a couple of our mods are actually there in person today, which is cool. Okay, so what were we doing? Oh yeah, we're trying to sort out that menu, weren't we? Okay, so rather than having an arbitrary delay, kind of need to do something more more intelligent, although let's try 1 millisecond, 10 milliseconds rather. Because it might even just be a single tick that we're missing. Target, long range, align to command target. There we go. Yeah, even 10 milliseconds is enough of a delay in order to refresh the menu, so that's good. It must just be like a single tick thing, that it's not updating the back end data quick enough for the menu to re-request the data before it's finished. Okay, so we need to get rid of align to command target. So on here, okay, so align to command target should be true if we've got one, and our page is sector locations. So we don't want that button to be available unless those two criteria, give me the pin, unless those two criteria are met. Okay, and then if we're on the system locations page, we have the back to overview button and the ability to conduct a survey. Yeah, it definitely is about time we add moons to the game. It's oh yeah, 9 minutes 50 according to my stream. Yeah, it's and the only reason we don't have moons is because it just means rejigging the data structure so that it's nested around a berry center instead of the central star as the host object, and it just adding that extra complexity of building that tree of objects in the system means that we have to build the data structure to support that, and support like the third tier not necessarily always being a moon, because you could have a star with planets and moons orbiting another star, say in a binary setup. So yeah, there's a lot of complexities, which means we need to rebuild the data structure, so we can't add moons until we've done that. So there's a bit of a chicken and egg problem there. Nine minutes. Okay, so long range, align to command target. Right, so the align button is now gone. So we only have back to overview. So align, back, align, back. Yeah, so that's just bringing that back up, which is nice. Interestingly, see that back button is kind of a different back button, which is kind of confusing, but we'll leave it for now. So yeah, so the only options we now have are conducting a survey or just doing the zooming in and out business. So I don't think there's actually anything else that's needed on the long range, specifically on the sensors, because conducting a survey is pretty much the main reason you'd be going to it. So general operation of the ship, it would be a case of you'd pick a star system as the captain, and then you'd go, hey, align to this target, do a survey.
Initiating long-range survey.
So they do a survey of that system, so you don't need to do anything as the captain, you can just get them to do that. The next step is making sure that that's raised as an order and not as a scripted event.
Long-range survey complete.
Let's make sure that it isn't already. So align to command target. Yeah, so that's not coming up as an order on there. Long range, do I not have something selected? Long range, align to command target. Oh, that's interesting. Wondering whether that's the delay thing again. 6 minutes to go for Artemis. I'll switch over to it with 5 minutes to go. So I really don't like using delays if we can avoid it, because it's much better to check that the data is valid before proceeding. The problem is this is an arbitrary action that's being handled on sort of a generic radial menu. So the thing that we'd be checking could be completely different depending on what the radial menu's interfacing with. So I'll have to have a think on that, because we are now T-minus 5 minutes for Artemis. So I will stop our lo-fi music. That can go away. And we'll bring Artemis back up and unmute it.
Flies too far off track. There's a brief built-in delay, so the launch abort system has time to pull the astronauts to safety first.
LH2 high flow bleed check.
How is my volume versus the NASA guys?
That's so the cryo team gets verification that the RS-25 engines, all 4 of them, are in the proper temperature range for launch.
GLS is go for core stage APU start.
Core stage APUs start. Those are auxiliary power units.
To be honest, if it was a SpaceX stream, I'd be comfortable doing that, but yeah, I don't know enough about Artemis and the SLS program to be able to offer anything meaningful.
Coming up in about 20 seconds, we're listening for go for purge sequence 4. That's a helium purge of the 4 core stage engines downstream of the propellant valve. This gets all the
Oh, I've got it turned down
moisture out of
on there. That'll be why. Okay.
GLS is go for purge sequence 4.
Moving through the milestones. All is looking good.
So if memory serves, I think they're using
Coming up in just a few
like the
seconds,
same
we're gonna
boosters
test
they
the
used
control
on the
actuator
shuttle,
test.
just a bit longer,
This is a gimbal
and the same RS-25 engines, is it, actually on the base of the thing? Yeah, aren't those the RS-25s from the shuttle that they're using there?
RS-25s,
Oh yeah,
3 of them
he just
shuttle
confirmed.
heritage, 1 of them built from shuttle parts. And there you see them moving.
We have our pre-launch wiggle.
Now we're going to start moving the power from both
Have you seen
the upper
SpaceX
stage
do
of
their
the
wiggle
first stage
test? It's
rocket,
mad. They go so quick.
taking ground power away and now going to battery power.
Yeah, the rate of gimbal on those engines on the Raptor is amazing.
All right, power is removed from the rocket's upper stage, the ICPS, and it's been switched to battery. Same milestone for the lower core stage coming up at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds. Right now, the 4-person Artemis 2 crew is 248,000 miles away from the moon. And if all goes well, they will fly by it in 6 days.
GLS is go for core stage to internal power.
All right, there's the rocket's core stage, which houses 3 flight computers, is now on its own power. There's no more hold time because there's no more margin on these
Should I
batteries.
full screen it?
So we would have to recycle back to T-minus 10 to recharge if we had a hold.
One minute.
Right now, the rocket does not know what the T0 is, but coming up at T-minus 33 seconds, control shifts from the ground launch sequencer to the rocket's onboard autonomous launch sequencer, or ALS. The rocket will count itself down, but honor any holds that could come from the ground. Now, shortly after liftoff, Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague Gary Jordan will take over commentary.
GLS is go for ALS.
Great call out. The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket.
I'll let the Discord guys know we're actually watching this, because they might not be aware.
Sound suppression water is flowing. And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis 2 now bound
Very
for the
cool.
moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
That just doesn't get old, does it?
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston, now controlling the flight of integrity of the Artemis 2 mission around the moon.
Integrity, AMT high.
On time passing 30 seconds into the flights. Integrity passes the ultimate MECO. Target milestone. Mission Control Houston seeing good performance of the main engines. Space Launch System core stage. Integrity, 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour.
I'd be so much more comfortable travelling on one of these with a launch escape tower than I would on something like Starship that doesn't have that. But yeah, I'd love to be up there.
Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q.
On, pump fully on.
Stan, we have you loud and clear on Ponce de Leon.
Have you the same?
Communication signal transfer confirmed as Integrity and its crew go supersonic. Approaching 90 seconds into the Artemis 2 mission. Integrity is 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour.
Wonder if we can get me on a rocket for research for the game.
Mission elapsed time, standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%, ahead of solid rocket booster separation, expected at the 2-minute 9-second mark. We see throttle down. Confirmed separation. Main main engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
A successful pressing of spacebar.
Integrity, SM priming complete.
SM priming complete.
2 minutes 45 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. Thrusters on Integrity and upper stage confirmed in a ready state ahead of service module fairing separation. 3 minutes into the flight, Integrity 49 miles in altitude, 78 miles downrange, now passing 5,000 miles per hour.
Surprised they're not using Starlink for their telemetry. SpaceX give us really, really nice views.
Standing by for launch abort system jettison.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same, Thrusters. Literally that.
Houston Integrity, good last jettison, great view.
Copy jettison, Team Eco 8 plus 02.
SpaceX did a great job at building like a community around their launches. Ooh, they are in space.
Outstanding, Stan, we have you the same.
3 minutes 50 seconds into the flight of Artemis 2, Wiseman, Glover, Cook, and Hansen crossed the boundary to space with good comm checks. GPS signals acquired after last jettison now working on internal checks to verify accuracy. Flight Dynamics Officer analyzed the time of main engine cutoff, confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds, time of MECO.
Is that little X on the bottom left their trajectory?
Integrity, GPS processing.
Oh, I want to be up there so bad.
Standing, Stan, we see the same, and we have a beautiful moonrise. We're headed right at it.
Honestly, I'd even take Jeff Bezos' carnival ride at this point.
Confirms he has visuals of his destination. GPS guidance, navigation, and control software finishes internal checks and sends to navigation channels.
Integrity, 3 engine press.
3 engine press.
On time, now passing 5 minutes 20 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. At this point, 3 good main engines are all that's needed to carry Integrity to a nominal main engine cutoff target. Though at this time, we're seeing 4 good engines here in Mission Control Houston. Integrity, 75 miles in altitude, 330 miles downrange, approaching 10,000 miles per hour.
Integrity, looking good at 6 minutes.
Same on board, Stan.
We'll keep watching until they do MECO and into the coast phase.
Performance. Booster officer will soon report the shutdown plan to Flight Director Judd Friedling, expected at the 7-minute mark. Integrity, 78 miles in altitude, 460 miles downrange.
Integrity, expect nominal shutdown.
Integrity copies nominal shutdown.
Six minutes 40 seconds of mission elapsed time. Shutdown plan is as expected. Again, the time of MECO was confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds into the flight. Seven minutes of mission elapsed time. Throttling down as we approach the abort once around option. Milestone at the 7-minute 30-second mark. Now 84 miles in altitude, 650 miles downrange, traveling more than 15,000 miles per hour.
Integrity, AOA open.
AOA open.
The window is now open for an abort once around option that would target splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. Still following nominal ascent at this time.
I wonder what the orbital track is. I didn't actually look to see which direction it was launching in.
About 10 seconds remaining until the main engine cutoff of the Space Launch System core stage. Standing by for confirmation of MECO and core stage separation.
Although specifically, will it pass over the UK?
Integrity, nominal MECO, core stage separated.
Not quite. Won't be able to see it from here, sadly.
We see the same on board, Stan.
8 minutes 40 seconds into the flight, we have a nominal main engine cutoff heading in the right trajectory on the way to swing around the moon. Core stage has separated, done its job. The Space Launch System upper stage, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, or ICPS, still attached to the Orion spacecraft. Nine minutes of mission elapsed time. Integrity crew of Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen now in orbit around the Earth at the beginning of their journey to the moon.
Integrity Houston, looking ahead to PRM numbers so far per the pad.
Copy that, Stan. Numbers for the pad.
Capcom Stan loves now reminding the crew that the perigee raise maneuver time of ignition is as expected prior to booster ignition.
Oh, okay, so they're doing an orbit first before they're doing the lunar insertion. Ah, yeah, so I thought I read that. So they reckon it could reach 426,500 kilometers from Earth, making Artemis 2 the furthest humans have ever been from our planet, which is very cool.
Integrity, good. Neds deploy.
Copy that, Stan. Good, Neds.
And Integrity Houston for PWD SEP, just a reminder, halfway open on the secondary.
We got that, Stan. Halfway open.
Okay, well I think as we're in our coast phase now, I shall leave the NASA coverage there,
Overhearing the conversation
and we shall go back to what we were doing.
Wiseman, already passing some milestones. We have a good nozzle extension deployment system. That is
I shall leave that open in case anything interesting happens. Looks like they're preparing for the orbital insertion burn, or the was it the perigee raising burn? But yeah, looks like we're just coasting. Yeah, very, very cool. I'm looking forward to the footage that comes back from that. It's a shame, as you say, that we're so spoiled with SpaceX launches and the kind of footage we get, like full HD, 60 FPS video streams of Earth. It's a shame they couldn't do that. the bar has been set high. Absolutely. And we shall watch more in the future, I'm sure. Fixing my little UI problems seems a little bit pathetic compared to that. There's NASA sending humans around the moon, and I'm just trying to fix a bit of data not being available on a UI. I think the best way of approaching this without using an arbitrary delay is if we grab a reference to the actual task ID. Oh, there's a, hang on, it's a bit of footage. It's not. Oh, no, false alarm, no footage. Yeah, if we grab a reference to that, then we can just check to see whether or not that actually equals aligned to command target. And if it does, then we can actually check to see whether or not this is ready. So the menu option was that. So with that, it's exactly that. Okay, so we'll have that continue on normally. If that's not the case. If it is the case, then we need to, I guess, wait until it's actually on the right page. So where are we? Long current page. So if that is on system locations, then we can go ahead and continue. Otherwise, let's delay for 10 milliseconds. And then just basically just keep trying. So just make sure that we are confirmed to be on that page of the sensors UI before we go ahead and continue. And we're only going to do that if we're specifically looking for this command. That should fix our problem. I don't like doing that because we've got something relatively arbitrary in what is a generic macro, or something rather specific in a generic macro, which I don't like to do, but it's going to be one of those band-aids which probably ends up staying there. Well, welcome to the stream. Good to have you along. Yeah, I've still got a bit of fizzy water left. We're all good. I tend to drink this now instead of any other fizzy drink because it's got basically 0 calories, 0 carbs. It's got no fiber, no protein, no salt, no nothing. Just it's just carbonated water with a bit of flavouring in it, and that's it. Not sure which flavouring though. What's that? Acesulfame? Don't know. It feels healthier than drinking Coke. Okay, so align to command target. That's nice. I saw it do the delay then, so it definitely was trying. So align to command target, back to overview, align to command target. Ooh, hang on. Oh, that was right. Great, yeah, so it is self-checking and fixing that, so that's good. So I guess the only other thing that we need to add to this to make it smoother is if we're already on the long range mode, then don't refresh the long range mode because we're already on it. Because we might cancel this, click on something, and then when we go back to here, we want to act on that without it resetting the menu button. So let's just check, or rather follow the breadcrumb trail. So all of these are firing that, and then firing command order on the player controller, which is hidden down here. Yeah, so I need to create a separate handler for sensors specifically, because right now we're just broadcasting it out on the default channel, which means we're literally just sending that order out as a scripted event rather than processing it like we are here and actually raising an actual task. So that's the next step with that, raising those tasks so that we can make sure that we raise those if there's a player in the chair, so that we can still raise orders for players, which would be a nice step in multiplayer, because it means we can then have a 3-person multiplayer crew working together, which is a nice point to reach. Yeah, so that's broadcasting that out, which means it's difficult to track where that's going without remembering it. So I'm assuming that we're processing that here. So yeah, so sensors, where are we? Medium range, short range. Why do we not have long range? Oh, wait. That will be why we were running into those problems with the data not being available, because we were adding an arbitrary delay. And the reason we're adding a delay is because we want the NPC to be pressing buttons at the same kind of cadence that a person would. So we don't want them to press all the buttons all at once instantly. They need to press something and then a second later press something else. So we need the menu to wait until this has happened. So that'll be why. That's why that was breaking. But we need to keep the delay in there to make sure the NPC has more of a human cadence in its actions. But why are we not handling the long range from there? I'm assuming then that we're doing that from the console. I might need to do a bit of a deep dive to track what is being done where. Yeah, so it's not that. Yeah, so it's this one. So basically all the stuff we're doing here is being done on the parent blueprint for the widget, but I'm going to move it all to the widget itself because it's the widget that is, it's the stand-in, or rather it's the interface between the player or the NPC and that system in the game. So what we want the NPC to do is to come at it from exactly the same direction as players do, rather than giving them some kind of remote backdoor access into those systems. So again, players and NPCs are using those tools in exactly the same way. It just it keeps it not only more immersive, but also easier to follow when you're looking at the chains of events. You're welcome, Firstus. It's a pleasure as always. Yeah, so what we are doing is we are forcing the button press with that button ID. Yeah, and then we're setting that through there. So really, that's the wrong way of doing it. We need to go back and basically stop doing this and move it all onto here, which we run out of time for. So I shall do that later off stream, and then what I'll do is change it so that when you are already on one of the menu pages, so if you're on the long range sensors and you press the long range button, then it doesn't reset everything on the long range sensors, because that's just irritating for the most part. There's also an argument for whether or not, if you speak to the NPC, the options that it gives you are for whatever page you currently are on. But if you want to go to a different page, you have to go back before you can go forwards again. And that just kind of feels a little bit counterintuitive. So I think I'll keep it so that just the 4 sensor modes are always the 4 things you have when you click the NPC. And then you just drill down from there. Okay, so I shall leave it there. Thank you everyone for watching, as always. And I don't even know what day it is. It's Wednesday, isn't it? Is it Wednesday? Yes. So I shall see you all on Friday for more shenanigans and fun. Yeah, have a great rest of the week, and I shall see you on the next one. Bye for now. If I can find OBS, I've moved everything around. Oh, there it is. Right, see you on the next one.